Hello, everyone. Hey, Perry. How are you guys doing? How are we feeling? Happy, great, doing great. Why are you devastated? Yeah, I think a lot of us wanted majority, but we got close. We're 3 seats away from majority. However, I don't know if you guys just watched my video that I put up on my personal page, but, I talked about the fact that, we scraped by with a win, and I'm very relieved. But at the same time, I do think that it's scary how close that was. Too close for comfort. At the end of the day, 8 million Canadians voted for conservative ideology. And it's not the old Conservative Party, right? It's the new Conservative Party, which is the Conservative Party that joined up with the Reform Party, and they became MAGA-style Republicans. So we've got a giant uphill battle. Giant. I mean, this country is more divided than ever, and it was pretty clear to see, right? 8 million versus 8.5 million. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah, I know Danielle Smith is already throwing a tantrum. We knew that was coming. We knew it, right? She warned us. She told us that it was going to come, so. She can go ahead and throw her tantrum all she wants, but at least we're safe for the next little while. But if you guys want to come up and start a panel today, I just want to have a nice discussion with everybody. I'm not really going to break down too many news. We don't really have the mental capacity, I don't think, today to hear about everything that's going on down south. If you guys want to catch up with that, just go to my page. I'll talk about that there, and I'll start getting back to my news updates next week. But we just finished a major election, so we're going to talk about that today. And for those of you in the comments that are saying Alberta 51st, go ahead and try. Quebec's been trying for a long time, so it's not going to happen. But you are more than welcome to move to the United States if that's the kind of government that you think would benefit you. I think a lot of us here would gladly crowdfund some bus tickets. Yeah, I totally live off government assistance. Yeah, you got me there, dude. Got me there. I love how that's the first insult. Do you live off government assistance? Like, some people do. That's not an insult. Things happen in life. Sometimes you get taken out by an accident, by a traumatic incident. It's not a reason to insult people. You have another path for 172? What you think? What I'm guessing NDPs are maybe gonna higher taxes and young adults can't afford homes. Yeah, we've heard it all before. JB, if you're here and you want to come up and chat about your path to 172, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, aisle crossers, that's what I thought you were going to say. I don't know if it's going to be conservatives or NDP. Do you think it's going to be conservatives? Progressives will never learn how to win elections. Didn't we just win an election?
First
Howdy.
things first. First things first. That fucking passionate lib. That's like his 10th account. He just don't engage with him. He's an idiot.
I'm just gonna block him.
Yeah, that's the best call.
Bye.
You want to hear my crazy path to 172? That's not so crazy.
Yes, please.
Clifford Small. He's the Conservative MP that won Central Newfoundland. Is a former Newfoundland Liberal.
Ooh, okay.
He left.
I did not know that.
He left the Newfoundland Liberal Party after the Liberals there forced the Fishers back to work.
Yeah.
From a strike. He defected from the Liberals, went to the Conservatives in Newfoundland, and then ran as federal Conservatives with one. You make him Ministry of Fisheries. Offer him a cabinet position. Say I'll make you Minister of Fisheries. You just come over to the Liberal Party. Bingo bango, you're up to 170. Then you head over to New Brunswick and you talk to Christy Armont, who is the Deputy Speaker. You say, hey, do you want to be full Speaker of the House? We'll give you the full Speaker chair because he's been almost there and he was going to be the full Speaker if Polyev won.
Yeah.
So you offer him full Speaker if he comes over to the Liberals. There's your 171. And then you head over into into Quebec and you grab one of the Quebec Conservatives that is also extremely progressive. Like progressive in nature for the Conservatives, offer them Minister of Quebec Affairs, make a new cabinet role for them, give them a portfolio to build the relationship between the Liberals and the Quebec because the Bloc is willing to cooperate. Bingo bango, you got 172.
Is there anybody that you know that's actually advising the Liberals to do this?
Nope. I literally thought of this on the drive home from Costco today. I'm like, this is a way they could do it.
So we need to let them know, is what you're saying.
I mean, I may or may not have a line on some of these Liberal leaders, so I think, that's a way that you could easily get 3 seats. Or even if you don't get them to cross the aisle, you offer them this role in a supply and confidence, right? Say, hey, we'll give you this cabinet position. Because there's nothing in the law that says you can't make another party member in cabinet, right? You just typically use your own party. But nothing's stopping them from putting Conservatives on the cabinet. And Carney's hinted at doing that in the past. He's talked about John Charest being on the cabinet if he was to run, right? So I don't think it's an unbelievably crazy idea.
Well, hey, put that in writing. I'll send it to my local MP and maybe he can pass it up the line.
Yeah, it's 3 very easy people, 1 former Liberal, 1 progressive Conservative who's the Deputy Speaker, and 1 Quebec MP who doesn't really have a loyalty, just wants to do what's right for Quebec, but happens to be a Conservative. It's where you're going to lose. Where you're going to lose is if the Conservatives want to go down back to a more progressive path, which I don't think they will do because Harper's still running the strings there. They're going to double down on the right. I don't even think that Pierre's going to step down.
He's not.
I think they're going to keep him on, and they're going to try to do a by-election move somewhere.
Probably in Alberta.
Yeah, have a backbencher step down, offer them a senior advisor role or something in the party, and then he'll run as a by-election.
That's what I said last night too. A lot of people were thinking that somebody else was going to step in, but PP's saying he doesn't want to go.
The question is, does he survive leadership review? That's the big question. And how can he meet with his caucus if he doesn't have a seat to meet with the caucus? Like, that's the problem, right? So these meetings will be without him because he won't be able to sit in them because he's not a member. But
we'll see what happens. But I have a feeling he's going to stay on. That's just my little spidey senses, but we'll see. At the end of the day, the Conservative Party could say no.
Yeah, well, and that's
so
the
it's
thing.
really going to be up to them.
And you have a couple of different paths for the aisle crossers too. If you don't want to target the Conservatives, but then you want the Liberals to go a little bit more left, you target one of the 3 of the 7 NDP members who don't have party status, so they can't organize committees, and who don't have a leader right now. Offer them something, right?
That's what I thought you were going to say at first. I thought you were going to talk about how you're going to get the NDP to cross the aisle, but Conservatives actually might be a better shot.
It's a smarter move because you pick away the opposition, right? You give them less votes.
That would be perfect. We need to definitely get that message passed up the line if they're not thinking about it already.
I mean, I can send a note to certain people and see if they're interested in that. But Carney's writing a throne speech, but doesn't mean he can't make some phone calls. I think the big one is you could easily probably get Clifford in central Newfoundland because he's been a Liberal, right? So that's easy get. You just got to convince him that the Liberals are the right path now. So
Yeah, and we also have to remember that there was Conservative MPs that were very unhappy with Pierre.
exactly. So, and if the party fractures, if there's a leadership scuffle, in the sense that at the leadership review, a majority of the party wants to stay with Pierre, but there is a loud vocal minority that doesn't want anything to do with him, you could probably see a fracture. And then that's a different conversation. You might get 5 or 6 aisle crossers at that point, right? So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
That would be even better.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be pretty cool. Anyways, that's my crazy crackpot idea. Call it a whim, a Hail Mary, but either way,
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's really good strategic thinking.
you just need 3. You just need 3. Hell,
I would love to see that happen.
target those 3 York region ridings that the Conservatives took from the Liberals. Be like, hey, what do you need? Because they're more progressive Conservatives in those areas, right? So target those 3. Those were previous Liberal ridings. They just squeaked out a win in those 3. So go to Newmarket, Aurora, and King Vaughan, and be like, what do you guys need? What do you want? So
I like it. I definitely like it. I want that idea passed up the chain ASAP.
there's so many different paths. Another one I thought of is the Nunavut NDP MP that got reelected.
Okay.
Because Carney's from the north. So if they offer her like Minister of Northern Affairs or Northern Protection or something like that, right?
That was so close. NDP and Liberal up there were so close.
Yeah, well, 74 votes or something crazy like that.
It was. I think it was 56 votes. It was tiny.
Yeah, it's going for recount, but and there's some shenanigans up there that there's some more remote communities that just didn't have a polling station on Monday. They just couldn't get staff for it, so it just didn't open, which is kind of concerning that there's a subsect of the voter base up there that didn't get a chance to vote on the Monday, on Monday. So
Yeah, that's really sad.
yeah, this is another one as Elizabeth May as speaker. Put her as speaker, offer her whatever she needs, and then put her in the speaker.
I would love that. I love
May as
Elizabeth May.
Speaker of the
That
House
would be amazing.
Fire. She wouldn't put up with any of the Conservatives' bullshit. She would just, and neither she wouldn't put up with the Liberal bullshit either.
That's why I would love to see Elizabeth May as speaker. That would be, I would pay money to see that.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all. I'm gonna go, but I just wanted to come up with that crazy idea, and
That's good.
put it into the ether and see if people spread it and make it a thing. But
Well, I'm telling you, put it into writing, and I will literally send it to my local MP and get him to pass it up the chain.
side note, Ottawa just scored. It's 1-0 Ottawa in the game.
Cool. I have no idea. I have
Leafs.
nothing.
Leafs, you're doing it again. You're doing it again.
I'm guessing hockey.
Yes, hockey. The only
Cool.
time I watch hockey is when the Leafs are about to lose.
Gotcha. I have no clue what's going on in the sports world, so
That's fair. All right. Thanks for joining the live the other night and hanging out there for a bit. I appreciate it. I know you.
Yeah,
came
that
in
was
at the
good.
end, but
I was going in and out, but I wanted to stay with Beaver politics for the most part
no,
because
I get that.
But I was there in and out, and I was there for the most important part of the night, which was the crab dance.
Listen, it's the final one that will ever exist, so I had to go out with a bang. You know who saw it? Just completely by a funny coincidence. My dad. He just went on TikTok to see how my stream was going, and I just happened to be in a crab suit dancing like an idiot.
What did he say?
He's like, I thought you were done doing that because he knew I did it before. I'm like, Dad, I got to do this one last time. He's like, I understand. But
That's awesome. I loved it. The music was so loud and intense. It was like perfect. Absolutely
I purposely,
perfect.
made it loud on purpose. Just
And the amount of crab emojis, that was great.
this is really funny. I know I don't like to talk about money on this thing, but we do get gifts on these lives from time to time. Just during Crab Rave, I made $250 in gifts. which I appreciate very much. That made it very much worth it. But so
Maybe I should get a crab suit. Damn.
listen, there's a reason I did it in the first place. I'll dance for money. That's fine.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that it went well. That was an insane live. You had so many people. You got up to 3 million likes.
I know.
I think at one point there was 2.5K viewers. I mean, that was wild. I've never seen your lives that packed.
It was
amazing.
It was very validating. I'm happy the live stayed up. I'm happy it didn't get taken down. I did send a note to my TikTok contact. Be like, can you just make sure that this doesn't happen? That we're like, this is a part of the civic process. This is part of the democratic process, is reporting this stuff. You know, people are going to give gifts. You know, this is going to be monetarily beneficial for TikTok. So can we just make this a thing, please? And he never replied, but I'm assuming they just put some sort of thing on my account that said, you know, don't let him be, kind of thing, or let him be. So
That's good.
okay.
Oh man, what a crazy weekend it's been, but I am relieved. But like
Yeah,
I said earlier, we got an uphill battle still, right? We got a lot of fighting that we still got left to do.
I'm not doing a live tonight. I'm going to take some gummies and I'm just going to have a night to myself and just chill out. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do after this live as well. And just totally watch some TV and take a little mental break.
I'm gonna put stupid comedy on Netflix, like just dumb comedy shows, and just be in my own time for a little bit. So.
Yeah, we all need a little break after this weekend.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you, and thanks for everything over the election
I
cycle.
appreciate you too. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was great. That was a great idea. We should all take that idea, and if you're in a Liberal riding, you should pass it to your MP and get them to move it up the chain. It's a minority for now, Kelly. Yeah. Unless we can get some NDPs or Conservatives to cross the aisle, it's going to be a minority. A really big minority, but still a minority. JB was just talking about how the Liberal government could get certain Conservatives that aren't that conservative, maybe even past Liberals, to cross the aisle over to Liberals. I'm also sad about how blue BC is, trust me. I live here. All right, guys, hop on up. Let's open up the panel. Request up. Here we go. Trying to make myself bigger here. Tiffany, Miss Lotus Lady.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Relieved and anxious all at the same time.
I'm exhausted. I'm so tired.
I stayed up for 24 hours yesterday, so I get it.
Wild. What?
I was on a live at like 2:00 in the morning, and I was getting close to ending it, and then there was a fire in my building.
Oh no!
And everybody who was on the live with me, they were like, "Hey, what's the alarms? What's going on?" But these are noise canceling headphones, so I couldn't hear anything.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, it's probably some car alarm on the street." And everybody's like, "No, that's really, really loud." So I took off my headphone, and it was a fire alarm.
No.
And I, had to get my cat in his carrier, and then I went outside, and the hallways were smoky.
Oh no!
So we all
had your back.
So we all went outside, fire trucks came, they dealt with it. Somebody just lit something on fire in their apartment. Everybody was okay. But then we were out in the rain because it was raining and cold. So we were all just, it really woke everybody up, right? Like, so when I came back in, I was like, oh my God, I had this live with 8 people and I just dropped off the face of the earth and they don't even know if I'm alive or not anymore. So I decided to get another live going so I could just tell people I'm okay. And then we ended up going for another 5 hours.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I thought
And I went to bed at 7:30 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
About an hour
18-year-old.
after. Sorry, go ahead, Tiffany.
Sorry, I was going to say just like an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I felt 18 last night, staying up on a live with my friends. But it was such a good live, and we had such good conversation, I just couldn't say goodbye. And then finally everybody got way too tired, or because we had a bunch of people that had just woken up and joined, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people had to go to work, and I was like, okay, I can see the sun, I can hear the birds. It's time to go to bed for a bit.
Oh, I didn't stay up that late. I was until I was gonna try and hang out until I saw Pierre lose his seat, but I just couldn't make it.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, I tried to. I turned everything off at 1:30, and then I had to be up with my kid at 6:30 this morning for school. So I'm very tired.
Yeah, I hear you. I am going to literally veg out on my couch tonight after this and just watch some TV shows and then go to bed early so I can go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because I got a big day ahead of me tomorrow.
I'm going to go do some gaming, I think, when I get home. And yeah, I've got tax returns to file. Yay!
Oh,
Can we not talk about taxes? Because it's going to give me anxiety because I have so much work to do there.
I told you I can help you with some of what you need. I'm certain of it. Not all of it, but I can refer you to people I know and trust, which is the most important aspect of that.
Like, don't get me wrong. I have an accountant. I just don't have the money to pay my accountant this time around. And I want to dissolve my corporation. Because I've left the industry and I really don't need to have a corporation anymore. I can just be self-employed because it makes the tax season that much more of a headache to deal with a corporation versus just personal taxes.
Well, for sure, it totally does. Maybe I'll send me a DM and I'll send you a couple names because you never know. Some of my accountants might be able to help you do that on depending. I don't know what their pricing structure is, but you never know.
Yeah, I might just have to take a hit. I might just have to take a hit this year and just spend a bunch of money, be really, really broke, but have everything be dealt with and then dissolve my corporation so that I don't have to deal with an accountant ever again. Because personal taxes, I can do that. When it comes to corporate taxes, accounting was the least favorite part of business school for me. Like, I loved economics, hated accounting.
I've always said that as women, we should know how to do our own personal taxes, change a tire, because it's just not expected of us. And I want to change it.
I agree. It's why I'm slowly teaching my kids stuff like that in homeschooling because I think it's a really important aspect. And although I file, Frontline, I personally file my own corporate taxes, I feel comfortable doing that with the level of education and experience I have for myself. I wouldn't do it for others simply because I didn't finish the CPA. And so it's just one of those things. It's my integrity. But I would love to like check in. I might email a couple of people, be like, hey, how much does it cost to file a final income tax and dissolve a corporation? Because I do have a lot of, because it doesn't matter. You can have an accountant anywhere in Canada.
You can dissolve a corporation anytime. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, see what they say about filing the final corporate taxes and doing that and see what their pricing is. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I mean, I know what the price is. It's a pain in the butt to pay it. It's about $1,500 to $2,000.
That is a lot. Like I have other clients that pay half that here in Alberta. So at least half that.
And I know that taxes are different provincially too. So, but anyway, let's not bore our audience talking about my taxes.
Although we should remind everybody, taxes are due tomorrow. Please pay your taxes. File your taxes. Please do that. There, I've done my rant.
Unless you're a sole proprietor, then you have to leave.
Exactly. June 15th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Thank you
I've
for
actually
that.
got till June 15th because I am a sole proprietor and I own a corporation. So, but like, it sounds fancy. It's not. It was helpful. It was helpful when I was doing my actual like health and wellness business, but because I've left that industry, like this past year, I've made very, very little that went into my corporation. So I know I'm not going to owe a lot of money. I'm probably going to owe nothing. It's just going to be the paying my accountant to help me put it all together.
What
Don't quote me on this, but personal taxes you can do every 2 years, I believe.
You have to pay interest if you owe money, though.
Yeah.
I guess,
They're not
Yeah.
gonna
I guess
chase after
because
you,
I
but-
don't owe money, I didn't even think about that. You're absolutely correct. Because I'm on CPP for my disability.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. Don't worry.
Yes.
Let's talk about let's talk about this map that's above me.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Danielle Smith and her threats to leave.
Oh, God.
Canada.
We already knew that was coming though. Like was that a surprise to anybody? She literally threatened us before the election that this is what she was going to do if the Liberals won. So
Didn't
She
she
can
also?
leave.
It's
She
exhausting.
just has to face south and keep walking. So,
Yeah.
bye.
Even Quebec couldn't separate. It's not as easy as she thinks it is. It's Indigenous land. You can't just take it and run. You can't become the 51st state just with Alberta. Like, I don't know what she's thinking, but just riling people
else?
up, I think.
Sorry, didn't she also announce that she was going to make it harder for people to vote outside of the country as well?
Probably. That sounds about right for
yeah.
her. Sounds about right. I
on-
believe
on
it.
message.
It's the same. It's the same BS that Pierre tried to pass federally with the Fair Elections Act when he tried to disenfranchise 1.2 million Canadians living abroad and another 300,000 to 400,000 low income and vulnerable people within Canada from being able to vote because he wanted to get rid of vouchers.
You notice how the title
Yep.
Fair Elections sounds like a title from 1984? Like the, instead of the War Commission, it was like the Peace Commission and so on. It's just so misleading. And the fact that so many people bite it and take the bait, it's a shame. But Miss Lotus, I've already thanked Beaver Network for all the hard work. I'd like to thank you as well for your videos.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
We really
Yes, thank you, Miss Lotus Lady. Your videos are great.
Thank you, Miss Lotus Lady. I tried my best to tag you in my post yesterday where I was thanking every possible content creator I could possibly think of. I even apologized in my post saying, I'm sorry if I forgot to tag you because there's so many of you guys and I so appreciate everything you've done. On TikTok, I have been living on the Book of Face, which, oh my God.
Oh, that's a cesspool.
I dip in there like once a month just to see what's going on and stay out of it otherwise.
Oh, it's
Not worth it.
disgusting. I
I
don't want to leave
I-
people behind. I don't want to leave people
I
behind.
opened up my Facebook for the first time since I decided to leave it all behind when Donald Trump got elected. But I wanted to open up my Facebook so I could see what the conservatives were going to be saying after the election, because I feel like it's important for us to know, especially if they're planning anything crazy. The amount of women that were spreading the most wild, outlandish conspiracy theories. Like this one woman was posted a picture of the table of contents for Mark Carney's book, except it wasn't the real table of contents. It was some made up one. And she was just passing it off and like had thousands of people being like, yeah, Carney's disgusting. None of us are going to have money, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't, it was blurry. Like it was obviously written in Microsoft Word by somebody. Like it was not the
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I tell you a funny story about my 76-year-old mother? Can I tell you?
Yes,
something?
please.
So my mom's on Facebook and she doesn't have a ton of followers. Doesn't have a ton of mutuals. It's mostly for family and friends, right? And so she phoned me early in the election. She's like, "You need to talk to your father." I'm like, "What? He's going to vote for Pierre. You need to talk to him. You need to tell him what's what." So, and I had this conversation with my dad, and then my mom's like, "I was going to phone you because I wanted to fact check something." And she's like, your cousin Myrna, she's posting things on Facebook, and she's just spreading conspiracy theories, and it's just bullshit. I just know it's bullshit." She's she's like, "So can you tell me about this?" And it was the home equity tax. What was the last one she phoned me about? I said, "No, Mom, that's not true." She says, "I knew it. I knew it." She's like,
And
she's going to war with my cousin Myrna, who's in Alberta, and she's in like the Bible Belt, and she's a Christo-fascist. And my mom's, and it's just so funny because my mom never swears, and she never, but she was so bad. She's like dropping F-bombs.
Oh my God, I love your mom.
And it's so disingenuous because even when you point out with evidence how wrong they are and that they're spreading misinformation, they don't take it down. They don't care.
Oh no, I get blocked. That's what happens to me. I just get blocked.
Yeah.
But there's honestly some really sad stories too, right? Like I did see on TikTok a bunch of videos of like young women that were crying because they were so upset about the election, and they just genuinely believed Pierre, and that's why, right? Like they were crying and saying like, now my kids won't be able to afford a normal life, and I just wanted to do something for my family, and I can't believe that families don't matter anymore. And like they just genuinely felt hurt because they genuinely believed the propaganda, and that's really sad. It's really sad, and it's a giant problem that I don't know how to tackle, because of course we have like the Maple Magas who are going to be rude and insulting and whatever, but then we also have a bunch of just normal people who believed it the same way that they believed that Trump was going to do things that were going to be good for them.
One of the reasons I'm not voting is because I know that people are genuinely hurting right now because there is a group of people that genuinely believed all of the BS. And they're mourning because they think that their life is over, as they knew it. They think their dreams are dead because they bought into all of this. And my heart breaks for them. But like there's also the people that knew exactly what they're doing. My heart does not break for them. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mario?
And then when you point out that the conservatives voted against $10 a day daycare, they don't even want to believe you.
Or the school lunches for children to create some equity in the education system so hunger wouldn't be a factor. Yeah.
Dental care.
And that's why it's really, really sad, because they're crying about the fact that their kids are going to be worse off. But if the conservatives won, then their kids would have definitely been worse off. But they just don't understand. And yeah, we've got just a huge issue with media literacy, and we need some sort of a plan or strategic action. But we need to do something, because like all the democracies that are still here on this planet are all just sitting on the edge right now of
Mexico just implemented something, didn't they today? They implemented some sort of, they stopped the Trump propaganda from getting into Mexico now.
Yes, I saw that.
And I don't know how, like I didn't read in depth, but they are doing something against propaganda.
I need to read about it then.
Read about too, but you know what? I was at my hairdresser today, talking to her and her husband, very conservative. My hairdresser obviously talking to me. She was actually shocked I voted Liberal. She's like, "You didn't vote NDP?" And I was like, "Well, not this election. It was just not the right time, and more importantly, the party needs a minute to kind of get their poop at a shoot, so to speak." But it was interesting because I was really educating her a lot about a lot of stuff that she didn't understand about how elections work, what the rules were, so many different policies and stuff that she had no idea. Because like I'm like, you guys keep talking about affordable living. I'm like, did you realize that you keep pointing at Trudeau or the Liberals or whomever about the carbon tax? But I'm like, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, I'm like, you should point at the UCP, you should point at Kenny, because I said the whole point was that each province was supposed to have a carbon program. And we did under Rachel Notley and the NDP. And in a minute the UCP got in, they axed it, kind of like the tax, but you know. And I said, so if you really want to look at brass tacks, that's part of the reason we had to follow the federal carbon tax, which isn't, I think, probably not the most financially beneficial for our province, given what our province is built on. And I'm like, daily living, I'm like, your insurance has gone up for cars, houses, everything, because the UCP is catering towards big insurance companies. I said, same goes with utilities. And I'm like, I could keep listing things. And I'm like, you're pointing at the wrong people instead of pointing at the level of government that you should be. I'm like, that's not to say that our federal government doesn't impact our daily life, but it's a very small portion when you compare it to your provincial, which is most of your daily life, and then a little bit of the city. And I'm like, learning. I think it's education. I really do. I believe it's education.
And then when
Yeah,
you point out to them that their provincial leader does know how it works, but is purposely lying to you and pointing the finger at the federal government, when in reality it's actually up to them to tackle those issues, it's doubly insulting, and they still don't want to believe you. And I see a lot of things happening even just one day after the election, like it did in the States. People were told over and over again, tariffs are bad, tariffs are bad. And then the vote was done, and then they looked up the word tariff,
Yeah.
on the internet.
I think what if they started teaching media literacy in schools? Like, why are we not teaching people these basic critical thinking for this age where we live on the internet and everything is available, good and bad, for everybody to see, just to teach kids how to discern what a good source is, what a reliable source is, how to look for bias.
Well,
I think that'd be great.
they want the bias. They don't care, because the same people will say, oh, watch out for all those pervs on the internet. They're coming for us. This community and that community is trying to groom our children. But when it comes to something they want to believe, they're not going to fact check it.
I think that we need stricter laws around our politicians and what they can and can't say. And because I
Yes.
think that it goes from the top down, right? I know that Alberta has always had some challenges, but let's be honest, when there's been other conservative leaders in that province, it hasn't had the level of rage that
No,
it seems to have under the UCP, right? Just like in
I
BC,
absolutely agree.
yeah,
Living here. Mhm.
and it's very much top down, right? It's whoever the leadership sets the tone for the province.
Yes, and when you have a leader that's calling you left-wing lunatics,
Yeah,
then here we are.
yeah.
And it seems obvious that they
sad.
only want to be in power, and they see how it worked for Trump to just sling mud and not actually have a plan. They would rather lie and cheat just to be in power. They don't care about you, and you can show this to them, and they don't see it. So I agree with you, Miss Lotus. There should be some checks and balances. After hearing PP say that, and lie to the elderly about home equity, that was just disgusting.
Well, even the way his income tax cut was put out at 15%, the average person is going to believe they're going to be saving 15%,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, they're not going to dig into it the way that we do.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the number of people I argued with about that, it's 15% of 15%. That's what that 2.25 or 2.75? I can't remember now. It's
2.25.
irrelevant. It was so stupid.
but this is
15%
why
of 15%.
But this is why I don't know if education is going to work at this point. Like, we are so far down that rabbit hole. Think about how many Democrats and even independents tried to teach the MAGA Republicans what tariffs were. I mean, there was thousands, if not millions of video that broke it down in the most simplistic manner, and these people still were not willing. And when you have 8 million people that have been indoctrinated by an ideology, it is much harder than just trying to throw more education at it, because unless they're willing to be educated, that's the problem, right? We have to, just bringing in more education isn't going to fix it if they're not willing. We have to make them willing by making education cool somehow, and by having more prominent figures that they can somewhat relate to, that are the ones doing all the podcasts and the social media and the content creation, so that they can feel some sort of connection and then maybe listen to those people.
Well, there's this thing. Sorry, go ahead.
We need to rebuild a sense of community, though, that in some way not lures, but is interesting enough. How do I put this? The amount of hate that these people have, unfortunately, that PP Fad and the right is using. They're using hate mongering kind of tactics. They want enemies. And when you separate people so far, it's so hard to bring them back. And that's what I wonder, is how do we bring some of these people back that are already that, because they have so much anger that they don't care about the facts.
Because it's human nature when you're attacked to just go physical on the defensive. You don't think. All your blood rushes to your muscles. It goes away from the
Well,
brain.
the problem is, though, is that they take education as an attack.
And
That's the problem.
they're propping up.
Well,
How do I put this? Like even PP's plan to not have to have a degree to get into being an MP, right? Or something like that. Like,
You already,
they
I don't
want
think you, I
education.
don't think you need, do you need a degree to be an MP?
no, but you do need a degree for certain federal service jobs.
Yeah, so it's not an MP, it's just certain federal positions.
Well, that's a little different, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not different, because they like, people
Value
need to be educated for their position, and he's saying that he wanted to remove that, which is exactly what Trump did. That's why he has all those loyalists around him that are not qualified. Pete Hegseth is not qualified. Kash Patel is not qualified. Pam Bondi is not qualified. These people don't have qualifications to actually be in those places of such insane power.
Well, they seem to really resent education. They don't like educated people. They don't want
I know, right? They've demonized. That's what fascists do. They demonize education. They demonize intellectuals. And one of the hardest parts that I find is that they use projection. So everything that they're doing wrong, they project onto their opposition, right? That's why you hear these podcasters always go, oh, the extreme radicalized far left, the extreme far left. And it's like, most of us are not far leftists. A lot of us are actually centrists. We're pretty we're pretty chilled out, like, even people here. I know extreme leftists, and that's not what most liberals are. But they painted this picture of liberals that are super far left, when realistically, if anything, they're more so center right. They don't understand the political spectrum, and they project everything that their leaders tell them. And their party does onto the opposition. So when you try to actually educate them on the truth, they go, no, that's you doing it. And then there's no conversation that you can have.
I don't think there's any easy solution. I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach. Like, remember the U.S. used to have you guys might be younger than me and don't remember, but do you remember Schoolhouse Rock and the cartoons? I'm a Bill. I'm just a Bill.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so you have those kind of programs, and you have programs like Sesame Street, which are funded with public tax dollars, and the electric company and things like that, and they teach kids really young, right? And then you also start teaching them in elementary school. Like my kids, they did mock elections every time there was an election. They did mock elections, age appropriate. Like I remember in high school, my youngest, he in the last election, he had to be Aaron O'Toole, and the other guy was Justin Trudeau, right? And they had to debate and everything. But they've been doing that since they were in kindergarten. So you start with you have to do the kids, but then you also have to have like those Canadian heritage moments like we used to have to explain history. And you break down, you address mis and disinformation, and then you also have to pass some laws around lying and spreading mis and disinformation, and making it a crime, like a civil offense to like lie on the campaign trail, like a blatant lie, not just I said I would do this and I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this kind of thing, but like spreading actual disinformation. In the case like with Pierre, where he was telling everybody that Carney was going to give a $20,000 tax on cars, like that is an absolute lie. He deliberately misconstrued the facts, and he gets away with that. Just like the home equity tax. There's no home equity tax, but he sat there and he lied to a bunch of seniors. Like things like that should have some consequences. But it can't, and then we also need some crackdown on the internet. Nobody's ever really policed the internet as well. And so it's not just one thing, it's several things.
But the policing of the internet is what I'm scared for, because I feel like that's going to anger a lot of, the MAGA crowd, and they're going to freak out and like cause so much chaos and violent uprisings. And like if they're already calling us a dictatorship and communist country, which is nowhere even close to the truth, but if they're already doing that now, could you imagine what it would be like if all of a sudden, say, we decided to ban X?
Yeah. Well,
But at
but
least
then
the media,
They would lose it.
anybody
They would
with a
lose it.
licensed Media shouldn't be able to lie. Maybe that's where we need to draw the line.
well,
And they want to,
But it's the reason it's so hard to control, though, is because media is global.
yeah.
Right. We can only, well, at least if we control Canadian media, but yeah.
Yeah, but how much Canadian media do we have? Barely any. That's the problem. Most of our media is American, so we can't regulate it. The only way to regulate it is to not allow it into the country.
You know what's funny? I had my hairdresser mention to me today about we had discussed today about the whole how Canadian news isn't shared on Facebook, X, et cetera, et cetera. It's all blocked.
You guys keep talking. I'm going to keep listening. I'm just going to
Okay.
walk away for a second, but I'm
No worries.
listening.
Yeah, we had discussed that today because, of course, that's always a huge talking point of the Conservative Party is the whole blocking of news and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I very like nonchalantly said, I said, well, yeah, I said, everybody, I said, all that the government wants is that the social media businesses pay the media for their content that they're using to make money on. I'm like, I don't think that's unreasonable. If you were doing my hair and I was going to a photo shoot, I wouldn't expect it done for free. I should have to pay you. Same diff. Like this is the same difference. You need to pay for the stuff that you're using to support and promote your business. And for social media, content is their business. So like, it's really not a hard concept. I don't understand how this is even like a discussion. And the same thing goes here. I do think there has to be some form of censorship. I don't know what it would look like because I agree with Frontline, especially living in Alberta. Oh my God.
They would freak out.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it censorship because every industry has guidelines and a governing body.
Yeah, I don't want to use censorship, but maybe mandates for rules.
accountability.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
mandate. Yeah, rules, accountability. Well, let's be real. Good is not the party that loves accountability. Has anybody met Pierre Poilievre? He's not exactly the king of accountability. I'm just being honest here.
Oh, I don't think he is either.
Every conservative supporter that I've met is the minute you try and get them to be accountable for their error, you get
Oh, yeah.
blocked, you get yelled at, et cetera, et cetera. And it includes family members. I literally, a few days ago, had a family member, like, I basically called them out because they said something about Carney paying people to show up to the Edmonton event here, which is,
Yeah.
we know,
I was
bullshit.
there from the very beginning because I went there as a volunteer and they had too many volunteers.
I
So
missed
stayed.
it because it was so full. We were
Oh, I
like,
know it was so full, but I was right in front of line. That's why I got a picture. Because
and
I was
honest,
right up.
I'm jealous. Please send me a copy of a picture of him because I'm so jealous we didn't make it. But like I basically clapped back at this person because they're like, I heard he paid people to be there, and I said, fuck, I could have got paid to be there? Like what? And then of course I got a huge long DM personally after they deleted all their messages of what they had said on my post. I didn't delete mine, and then they gave me a huge lecture, gaslighting me and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you need to take accountability for what you said. You said these things. I clap
I
back.
did not mean to do
You were
that. I'm
wrong.
sorry, Frontline.
Yeah, like you were wrong. Like just own it. Like we all make mistakes. I did it on a Facebook post. I shared something, didn't fact check it. Found out after the fact it was not accurate. So I shared the accurate information, shared a post about what my inaccuracies were and apologizing. Because I'm like, that's what we do. We all make mistakes. We're freaking human beings. We make mistakes. Like it happens. But I'm like, you can't just sit here and be like, I was more so than anything just pissed off that I'm like, you're trying to smear campaign this person because if I'm saying that this is so busy, you're now afraid.
The biggest problem though is like who dominates the media. And we know that the biggest content creators with the most views, the most likes, the most followers are spreading right-wing propaganda on both the, manosphere, and as Miss Lotus Lady shared that absolutely scary article about the woman's sphere too. Because there's a lot of women that are pushing this trad wife, be submissive, know your place type of rhetoric to other women and making them think that they are going to get more benefit in life if they just play the submissive little housewife versus just accepting whatever women want to do. Like if that's what you want to do, I don't care. I have nothing against you. If that's what genuinely makes you happy, then by all means. But don't tell other women that are young and very easily influenced that they will achieve more in life or they will be more abundant or whatever, however they phrase it, if they just take that role without questioning it.
I was just going to say that they think that we're trying to shove this agenda down every woman's throat, where in reality, I think at least the feminism that I hold is that you're free as a woman to do what makes you the best person you can be. And if that in your mind is, CEO, stay-at-home mom, they're equal, because they're your choice, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell you not to do something because you should have the freedom to, be that way. And about the media, there's a good reason why Pierre Poilievre wanted to defund the CBC.
We know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, too, we have to make people understand that feminism is not misandry, which that's how it gets taken by a lot of the mega crowd. They look at feminism as misandry, and it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It actually has everything to do with us just being equal people in general. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter your orientation. It just matters what you want to do, what makes you happy. There's guys out there that want to be stay-at-home husbands. Great. All the power to them. All the power to the women that want to do that. All the power to the women that want a career. All the power to the men that want a career. Just let people be who they are. Stop trying to indoctrinate people to be a certain way to fit a certain ideology. Like if somebody wants to be the way they are and it's not hurting anybody else, why are we making such a big deal out of it? Because it helps push a political agenda.
Well, it's Project
And
2025. They want women to be having more babies, younger, and they do not want us getting an education.
Well, yeah, when I talk to a lot of the Maple Megas that I've had debates with over the last couple of months, one of the things that they constantly bring up is we have declining birth rates. We have declining birth rates, so women just need to pop out more babies, and we need to figure out a way to get women to do that. And it's like, no, we have a ton of people on this planet. I'm so sick and tired of like us constantly looking at borders and race as something that separates us. We're all
Well,
human.
when I grew up and when I was in school, basically almost all of my entire education, all we ever got taught was how the world was overpopulated, we needed less people on the planet, etc., etc. Maybe it's because I hate using elder millennial, older millennial, because, well, we all know why. That guy's he's something. He's something. There, that's my answer. He's something. And so I'm like, you know what? The more important practice is how many children do you want? If the answer is 0, that's awesome. If the answer is 10, that's great. If the answer is 2, that's awesome. It's your body. You should be able to make choices about your own body. And it's funny because it's ironic because this whole crowd tends to be the same my body, my choice crowd when it came to the CV vaccine, the CV-19 vaccine. And I'm like, you cannot be so hypocritical as to say, well, if it comes to a vaccine, I get to make a choice. But when it comes to babies, no. No, it's either you get autonomy or you don't. So which one is it? This is not a fence sitting thing.
And it goes beyond that. It's not just my body, my choice when it comes to injections. It's your body, my choice, and I don't even know you. And that, on top of that, this whole misunderstanding of what feminism is, I always get that stupid defense of, well, men are stronger than women. Like, that's not at all what I'm talking about. There are men that are stronger than other men. Does that make them, less, have fewer rights than the other men? No, it's just the misconceptions and lies.
What I like to tell those people is about my kid's karate teacher. She was 5 foot nothing, and she could take on a guy twice her size and put him on the floor. She was an Olympic. She was an Olympic competitor, and she was like 90 pounds soaking wet, 5 foot nothing, and she could take a guy twice her size and just knock him right down on the floor, no problem whatsoever. It doesn't matter what your gender is around strength. It's
Even if she couldn't, it's not about that.
yeah.
Well,
It's
like saying,
justice under the law and the right to make your own decisions and have autonomy.
Absolutely.
And more
it's simply
importantly-
like it's like saying women store more body fat than men, so therefore we can live under famine for longer, so therefore we're superior. It's the same type of ideology. They just apply it to being physically stronger.
Well, and more importantly, they're only looking at one aspect of strength.
Exactly.
Physical strength is only one aspect of strength. One small aspect. Its strength is a spectrum, and I'm gonna qualify that by saying strength is a spectrum, not a binary spectrum, but just like neurodivergence, it's a circle spectrum. So when you're looking at strength, physical strength is only one small aspect of it. And for women, our physical strength tends to be in our legs, glutes, and lower body, which makes sense when you look at it from a historical and
Also, though, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's one
Talking about strength and talking about like, oh well, somebody has more strength, so therefore somehow that makes them better than you. Like that's bordering eugenics.
In this day and age, too, what's the use anyway? And let's look at mental fortitude. How often do women have to rely on distraction, deflection, etc., to get out of dangerous situations where they're faced with, harassment by someone larger and stronger than them? We don't just rely on physicality.
I don't know. It's
I just look at it as feminism has been just like a lot of subjects within society hijacked and utilized for a negative purpose within society to push a certain agenda. Because I've sat here and argued, literally quoting word for word from textbooks from my women's studies courses when I was in university. So directly from experts in the field. And my mind is blowing listening to people trying to justify their discriminatory behavior. It's just like, I don't get it. I can't. I'm like, you know what? I want an equitable society. I don't want an equal society. I want an equitable society, because I'm like, you guys don't even know the difference between those two words. Equitable and equal are not the same thing. Equitable is what we want, not equal. Equitable. And if
Because
people
no
don't get it,
human,
look it up.
because no human, regardless of who they are, of the 8 billion people on this planet, is exactly the same. And we're not out there plowing fields anymore. We have technology.
Communism.
how's that communism?
Well, this would be a good time to segue into a discussion around women in politics and how many women are leaving politics.
How are we?
Violence.
That is also very true. That's a big reason why I didn't want to have kids, because I don't want to have to worry about my kids if I decide to be an activist. And being an activist and having kids is a scary thing because people come after you.
Yes,
look
they
at
do.
how many people. Look at how many people come after Rachel Gilmore. It's so sad. Like, I just saw Mario on an interview
Yes,
with
Candace.
right. Like, that's come on. And Mario also got his blue check mark on TikTok.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Sorry, it is.
What is
Like-
the blue check mark? Like, I know it means that you're like somebody, but what is it exactly? Like, what does it?
It gives you an it verifies who you are. So if it so that people know you're not a scam account. You can't
But
have a
yes.
check mark on a scam account.
He's just, it's propaganda. But
Makes
yeah.
it harder for people to report him for spreading misinformation. That's what it does.
Yeah, for him. Yeah.
Great. Not that
Yeah.
I'm bothered, but
But you know, well, look
Yeah,
at what
I
happened
just-
to some of the creators, right? Like JB said, his kids were doxxed. Nitty left because her kids were doxxed. You know, I've heard other stories about women who are advocates and who use their voices being sent death threats and things like that. And a lot of women politicians didn't run again because of that.
wow.
Literally had somebody argue with me today about this, funny enough, because I had been discussing with a man on Facebook, and he may lean more conservative, but we were having a really productive conversation. No hate, none of that garbage that we have been seeing. And it's funny, there was a woman who came into the commentary and they're like, well, maybe you were causing all of this hate and these DMs that were, you know, we've all received the DMs. I'm sure every single one of us on this panel have received the DMs between sexual content and unaliving and somewhere in between. We've all received them, right? Like, I'm not alone in that. And I was like, what would make you believe that there was ever a reason, like, that I should ever receive that as a comment or as a DM from anyone for any reason, for any purpose?
How
Like-
is sharing your opinion and just breathing on this earth make you, you know, how is that justifying any threat to your well-being? It doesn't, you know?
Yeah, I was just going to
Can I take a second to just answer somebody in the comments because they're spreading misinformation, because I know, because I deal with this too. Grimmer, I was also born in a communist country, just FYI. And all the communist countries that are, you know, still in power or were in power, that wasn't real communism. That was dictatorship with the communism banner slapped on top of it. Real communism has never happened on this planet and will never happen on this planet. The true definition of communism cannot actually exist in reality because it would mean that everybody would have to be a good, honest, empathic person, and that's never going to happen. So there's no such thing as real communism. What you're talking about is dictatorship. And if that's what you think that Canada is, you can keep spreading that all you want, but don't put the word communist in there because it just confuses people, and that's just not okay. Stop spreading misinformation. Communist countries have been dictatorships with a communism banner slapped onto them. That's not real communism.
Sorry, I kept interrupting, but even another example of that is Schmittler's party and the title they had. It didn't mean what people thought it meant. Just because he used those words was not a representation of how that government was. It was a dictatorship as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to keep dealing with this rhetoric forever. It feels like it's an uphill battle that doesn't have an end.
Yeah.
It's exhausting because I know you know what you're talking about, and this is just when someone says that, I don't even know how to respond.
Oh, now we're going with the they're heading into ad hominem attacks now, which means that they're not here in good faith.
They never are. They never are. They're here because they need an outlet for their anger.
Yeah.
And it's just further proof that they actually don't have an argument, because if they had something intelligent and something to counter what we're saying, they wouldn't have to call us names.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I was saying, they get away with comments. One of my posts has a comment on it that it's been reported and is still up.
Mm-hmm.
And the comment was about the rally I was at. If I was at that rally and saw you, you would know if I was there because the phone would be down your throat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that can get by. But I call someone's idea stupid, and I get reported.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, right? I don't know how we put the genie back in the bottle. We can stop by stop calling things like Rebel Entertainment Rebel News, and we can stop referring to True North as a news organization and things like that. Like, we can stop calling them or treating them like they're verifiable news organizations, because they're not.
I thought we had standards here in Canada where you needed to meet a certain threshold to be called a news organization.
There was a lawsuit, wasn't there?
Yeah, they have to meet certain criteria to get the tax breaks and to access the Canada Media Fund and to be able to get press access to the press gallery in Parliament. There are certain, all media is biased. No, it's not.
There are facts, and there are.
What things have the CBC been caught in, Kay? What things?
The only thing they have is that Pierre Poilievre called them fake news, and they just believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's because all of these, actual news outlets have been demonized by the far right over the last 10 years. So all of the MAGA supporters, worldwide MAGAs, I'm just going to call them all MAGAs because that's what they are. I don't care anymore if you're Canadian, if you're Australian, if you're British. If you believe in the far right rhetoric, you've been red pilled. But everybody who's been red pilled looks at any sort of mainstream media as fake news and as biased. And of course, media has some sort of bias. You have more left leaning, more right leaning, but then there's also fact checks, right? Like we can go and we can figure out if for example, like CTV News, they're still rated as highly factual, even though they're more to the right. Global News is a little bit more centrist, still highly factual. CBC might be just slightly center left, again, highly factual. But then you go to Rebel News, which is not even news, and you'll see that their rating for factuality is like way down at the bottom, and then they're extreme right.
Yeah.
You can check these things. There are governing bodies that look at this. But again, they don't trust those governing bodies because they don't trust doctors. They don't trust scientists. They don't trust teachers. Intellectualism has been demonized. And that is the biggest issue that we face in the world today, is that when experts speak out and try to say, hey, we've got some major problems we need to tackle here, this is what's happening, they go, nope, fake news. It's all just fake news.
Isn't that the start of fascism?
Hang on. CBC very left, Jill? No, Kay. The CBC is not very left. They're highly factual with a slight left-leaning bias in their opinion pieces. But you probably think everything that isn't Western Standard or True North or Juno News is far left. Like,
And the
it's-
very
it's-
people, sorry.
No, it's okay.
And the very people that scream bias, won't even take a second to, when they see something that they think is biased, to just take 5 minutes to check it out. They would rather just stick with, no, it's biased. I'm closing my eyes. I'm putting my fingers in my ears.
Yeah. So Jazzy's up here. Do you want? Hey, Jazzy.
Hey guys, can you
How's it
hear me?
going?
Yep, we can hear you.
We're here.
It's so nice to see your face, Frontline, and smiling. We did it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to come on and say thank you for getting me through very, very stressful few months, we'll say. It's lots to be done. You're right. I stayed on. I didn't sleep last night. But I stayed on and I watched CBC, and I don't know if anyone else did, but they had people call in. And the amount of youth that called in, and they weren't the angry youth that we have been hearing on lives. They were kids, I shouldn't say kids, they were, 21. They were devastated for what, and they were conservatives, but they were devastated for this girl was talking about how she thought she was not going to have a family, a house, and honestly, it gave me a new very late in the game, but it gave me a very different perspective of that side. So I think the biggest thing, and I've always said this, coming out of this, is that Mark Carney, Prime Minister Mark Carney, and even if PP keeps his seat or gets back in, they need to address that demographic and somehow calm the angry ones down.
But PP's never going to do that. PP's never going to do that. PP thrives off these people feeling that way. That's the problem. And it's honestly so depressing. Like, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see young people cry and think that their life is over, even though the Conservative Party would have done so much more damage to them. And it's heartbreaking because, you want to be compassionate and give them a big hug and say everything's going to be okay. But it's sad because they look at you as the enemy.
I don't know.
Say something really quick, because there's somebody in the chat named Chad who actually has questions about the Alberta referendum surrounding separation. Sorry to interrupt everybody, I apologize, but since this is somebody who's actually asking, can you explain how this works and why they wouldn't win and all of that stuff, I'm hoping that between the panel we can all explain how
I wish
The
treaties could
separation
do that.
talk is ridiculous.
I'll drop down if you want to bring them up.
Oh no. Oh, you mean Chad?
No, I'm okay. I don't.
Sorry to interrupt, but they keep asking me questions and they're like, can you please explain this thing? And I'm like, this would be good education for everybody.
I don't know the details, but I do know that there is something to do with the treaties that Alberta wouldn't be able to separate without the Indigenous being in agreement. But I don't know the details of it.
Well, yeah, our land is all Treaty 6, 7, 8, and 4, I think, and maybe a little bit of 10. Don't quote me on that. So a lot of our land here in Alberta, if not most of it, and most of it, just so for anyone in the chat, all of the oil sands land is all treaty land. So all of the land worth a lot of money, because it's oil sand land, all treaty land. Sorry, that's all I know so far. But yeah, it's hoping we
Or
can educate.
federal.
Alberta isn't mostly unceded land, it's mostly treaty land. BC is mostly unceded territory. So when Quebec tried to do this, they had their referendum and it passed, but it went to the Supreme Court because the Indigenous communities in Quebec took them to court, or actually, I think it was across Canada, took them to court because the treaties are actually held with the Crown, not Canada. So the treaties are with King Charles, not Canada. And so they are governed by international law. And the Supreme Court ruled that if Quebec couldn't separate because it would be in violation of international rights of the Indigenous peoples at the UN, which we have in Canada as well. So Alberta can do all kinds of referendums and they can try whatever they want to try, but as long as we have the Indian Act and those treaties are held with the Crown, King Charles, they can pass whatever they want to pass. They will not be able to leave. There's a tiny sliver of Alberta that is not treaty land or unceded territory, I believe, but it's not where all the resources are. All the resources are on treaty land, as far as I know. I did a video about this a couple of months ago, explaining how much of Alberta actually belongs to Indigenous people and how those. Oh, there's Curious Leaf. You know what? I'm going to let her, Curious Leaf. I'm going to let you take over here because you're much more well versed on this than I am.
So,
Thank you,
sorry,
Miss
I was
Lotus.
just walking downstairs. I didn't hear the whole conversation, but we're talking about if Alberta were to try to separate.
Yes, because there was a guy named Chad in a chat who was asking me a bunch of questions about the referendum that Danielle Smith's talking about and how we could leave. And I said, no, we can't because
Okay.
of, Treaty
I can clarify
4,
all
6,
that.
7, 8, and I think 10, if I'm remembering all the treaty land correctly for a promise. Please don't eat me alive if I got that wrong.
So what's happening is it's not Danielle Smith calling for a referendum. It's the Republican Party of Alberta that's going to be calling a referendum. They went to Danielle Smith and they wanted to propose new legislation to get less signatures needed to hold any sort of referendum in Alberta. So someone proposes a referendum, i.e. we want to pull Danielle Smith out of her seat and we get a certain amount of signatures and we can put that forth. So this, I think, what was his name? Chad something. He's the Republican Party of Alberta and he wants to separate. This has been something they have been going on and up for years because of the Liberal federal government that we have. So now that they have lost again, he wants to hold another referendum for a separation. He's going to need, I can't remember what the percent of the population is. I'm looking at it here. I think you need 10% of the electors of Alberta in order to put this forward. So he would have to get 10%. I don't know what the new numbers will be in order to do this. But then outside of that, yes, you need to get every reserve in Alberta on board of this. So there is a very slim chance in hell of it ever happening.
Chad's saying he's just asking. He wasn't on a particular side. So I just wanted to let him know that I saw that.
Yes, I was just letting you know what it all entails. That's how that operates. It won't happen. Like he can try to get 10% of the provincial electors on board with it, but if you don't get all of the treaty, all of the reservations on board, which you never will, it won't happen.
Can I also add, forgive me for throwing myself in, but there are a couple of other things too. One is the oil that is leaving Alberta to Trans Pipeline is Canadian owned. So they know very well they can't sell the oil. They will be stuck. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and I mentioned that to one of these people, and he was shocked when I said that. I said, if you think Alberta could hold a referendum, Edmonton had a couple of seats, and Calgary. We can also hold a referendum that Edmonton and Calgary want to separate from Alberta and remain in Canada, and there is nothing that would stop that referendum either. And I mentioned that, and they said, "Oh no, a province can only do it." And I said, "No, a 1905 act that created Alberta was a federal act, not a provincial act. And the federal government, we could ask federal government to pass a new act and redefine the boundaries of Alberta. And that can be done. So what I'm trying to warn them is you're opening a can of worms, that there's so many other factors involved. And I will fight for separating Edmonton from Alberta if that's what they want to argue. And they realize it's a dead issue. They realize they can talk about it and yap about it and talk about it. It's not going anywhere. Alberta will remain part of Canada. And the complications are tremendous in that sense. Plus, I mentioned to them that the cost of separation, you need embassies all around the world. You need to have Alberta Armed Forces, Air Force. You need to have Supreme Court of Alberta. We need our own criminal code to be created. The cost of running a state, if you want to call it, is tremendous. And they are not going to, they don't understand what they are talking about. So I will bring those points every time that these yahoos talk about separating us from rest of Canada, that there's so many factors there. And finally, I just want to mention that federal government will have a say. And if they refuse to agree, it's in dead water.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm looking more into it now. So currently the legislation is they would need 20% of Alberta's eligible voters, which is about 600,000 people. And if this new legislation is passed, it would cut that in half to 10%.
And the politicians know this, and they're just using it to rile you up and take advantage of your anger. They're using you, guys.
It is only a small fringe of people. Only about 64% of Alberta voted for the Conservative MPs in this entire province. That leaves 43, 46% of Alberta that didn't vote for the Conservative Party. They would have a very, very hard time to pass any referendum. And that's not even including the Conservatives that don't want to separate. There's probably over half of them do not.
Absolutely. There's a ton of them that don't want. I just thank you. I'm so sorry, whomever I interrupted when I said that. It was just, I thought it was a very good question and a very honest question, because they didn't seem to be very pushy or negative or insulting. They genuinely just wanted to understand. And I thought this was a really great question, because I've seen this a lot. Curious. I've seen this a lot on Facebook, the separation referendum. And so I thought it would be really great, because I know there's people, panel experts here, who are much more knowledgeable than me about this subject. And Kingston, if you need help and support in standing strong in Edmonton, I am more than always willing. Just send me a message. I will stand beside you on that hill. No problem. Yeah. But I wanted them to understand, like, it's not as easy as they think. And more importantly, why? Like, why? Like, I get being upset. I get feeling bad. The person you picked didn't win. It sucks. Every time the person that whether it's a sports team, Edmonton Oilers fans out there, every time that Edmonton Oilers lose, go Oilers. We're going to have it in the bag tonight. I have a good feeling through my whole entire being. it sucks when our team loses or a person loses. It really does. It hurts us. But that's not a reason to sit there and lash out and decide to separate, reject, punish, harm those of us who actually love us. Like, Canada doesn't want to see Alberta. We are some of the most important history of this country. When you look at women's right activists, who were most of the women who fought for women to be allowed to vote in this whole entire
they're
country,
from
right?
Calgary.
Like,
Yep.
Alberta has a lot of history and important things that we have brought to the table, and I think it's time to get back to looking at that instead of being like oil dollars, and all of the oil and how amazing it is. Like, no, it's time to really get back to brass tacks. We are an important province. We have a voice, and you know what? If you want to use your voice, guys, stop being the cons fucking cult party and just start being the swing province. You want to know
What
why
is it?
Ontario gets shit? Because they're willing to move their votes around so that the Liberal and Conservative Party had to cater to them. Alberta, if you want stuff, get the parties to cater to you by voting in such a way that they have to. This is just strategy.
It is wild because what do Albertans want to be known for? Do they want to be known for our beautiful province that we have? It is a major tour destination from around the world. We have such a huge tourism industry here. But then Albertans are just caring about destroying our environment. Like, we're going to be the new road warrior province of Canada.
Well, Alberta's always angry because they always pit themselves adversarially towards the federal government. They've been doing it my entire life. And they refuse to vote any other way other than Conservatives. And Conservatives generally don't hold the balance of power in the country. And so they wonder why they don't have any MPs doing anything for them in Parliament, because they never diversify their vote.
I know.
Yeah.
I actually did a post on this on Facebook, and you should see the hate and stuff that I got because of it. And I was like, dude, if we were the swing province, kind of like the swing states, do you know how much stuff we'd get in Alberta? Because parties would have to cater to us. They'd have to actually hear our voice and the things that we want, the things that are important to us. Guys, anybody who's a conservative Albertan out there listening on this whole TikTok, listen up. You want a voice, and that includes our province or federally. You need to start being a swing place instead of just being a cult member.
Yeah,
Sorry.
make the Liberals work for your votes in Alberta. But if you've got a premier that is constant, if your premier, no matter who it is at odds with the federal government and adversarial all the time, and then you have a sweep of conservative voters, but 9 times out of 10, it's the Liberals that are in power. How are you going to get the Liberals to do anything for you? Right?
Guys,
It's mind-boggling.
someone actually said that it should be based on equalization payments. You want to tackle that?
Oh, I can talk about equalization payments. It's a favorite topic of mine.
You know, the subsidies Alberta gets.
So equalization payments, so they're not provincial driven. Equalization payments are each person in Canada pays federal taxes for federal services. All of the federal taxes go to Ottawa, and based on a calculation that Stephen Harper created, they redistribute federal dollars in order to give to provinces to make sure that the level of federal services is equivalent across Canada. It is about being Canadian, not being from this province or that province. The reason why some of the provinces are upset at the moment is because Ontario is receiving equalization payments, even though they've got the largest GDP in the country, because of the calculation that Stephen Harper made when he was prime minister. But equalization payments aren't like I always hear, it's like having a family bank account. Exactly. I just get so angry sometimes when when Albertans are especially are upset that Quebec gets equalization payments, and it's like the people in Quebec are also Canadians, and they're entitled to a certain level of federal service,
Mm-hmm.
just
Well,
like the people in
yeah.
Alberta are entitled to, just like the people in BC are entitled to, just like the people in PEI are entitled to. The other thing that gets me is that Albertans have a very short memory when it comes to oil busts.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yep.
time there is an oil bust, we carry Alberta until oil gains on the global markets and Alberta gets back up on its feet. And I'm just going to end with this, is that Alberta has a heritage foundation, a heritage fund that could be holding trillions of dollars, and it only has $18 billion because
It's got pennies in
Alberta
it.
governments, what's that?
It's got pennies. There's
Yeah,
there's nothing.
yeah, because Alberta governments spend like drunken sailors on shore leave every time there's a boom for oil, and they never save for a rainy day.
Are we really shocked that the UCP does not save for a rainy day? Are we though? Anybody on the panel? Just being honest, like, is anybody surprised? Daniel Smith, Kenny, Klein, I could keep going. There's so many of them. Selmac,
Yeah.
like, are we really any of us shocked that they don't save anything for what is important in the future, or the fact that, I don't know, oil is a non-renewable resource and it will eventually, I don't know, run out
Yeah.
at some point. Like,
Yeah.
Look, whenever
just-
they got a surplus, they turn around and give tax breaks to the oil companies.
Yeah.
And
Subsidies.
extensive subsidies,
course.
tax breaks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that money is not staying with the Albertians. Look at
Yeah.
how the lollipops was taken from the mouth of
Yeah.
the
It's going to
children.
foreign countries, foreign investors.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of corruption in Alberta. I don't like the recent one with Alberta
100%
Healthcare.
is.
It's the recent one, but I think there is a lot of corruption. This money is getting wasted, God knows where, how, because the services are not the best services in Alberta. The healthcare is not the best healthcare in Alberta, and the corruption is still there. By the way, may I also add? Sorry to say this, but may I also add to you guys that separationists also are divided. They are 50% of them are pro-Republic of Alberta. The other 50% want to join US. So there is a division even amongst them because
Yeah.
it's very divided. And I don't think it will ever happen. I have faith in Albertans and I'll fight for it. I got to
Well,
go
not
because my client is here, so I'll see you guys another time.
before you go.
Thank
Can I
you.
ask
Hi,
you?
Kinson.
Oh shoot.
No, go
Um,
ahead, Calvin.
I have. Maybe he could have answered the question, but since Canada is all unceded territory, whether if it's a Mi'kmaq territory or some other First Nation, right? How would that play into separationists? Like, I know Quebec wanted to separate, but what aspect of that does First Nations have control over?
I think that every bit of crown land would have to be between First Nations and obviously the federal government. I think all reservations would have to be dependent on the First Nations, but then also the federal government would have to have discussions there too if they wanted to separate. And then you also have to think about all of the army bases that we have in Alberta as well. That is the Canadian Army, not the Alberta Army, and they're in all of our cities, up in Slave Lake. All of these take into factor. So I think the only places these are coming from is probably rural people and central Alberta.
Well, and if they also
Lake, yeah.
separate, as Kingston was pointing out, the pipeline belongs to the taxpayers of Canada.
Yeah,
It's running through British Columbia.
yeah.
So do
And
you
we
think
get a
we're
lot
just
of our
gonna-
water from out of province too.
Yeah. And so do you think we're just gonna give you like, I don't know, just be kindly neighbors and let the oil flow through the tax? Like that's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah, they think our utilities are most expensive now. Wait until we separate. They're very naive to these things. They don't take it into factor. They just think, oh, Danielle Smith wanted to have our own CPP in Alberta, have our own retirement savings, and get rid of CPP. Like it was disgusting the stuff that she's trying to pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
And
needs
can
to.
you
attitude
imagine
is
if
really
they don't
embarrassing.
become a part of the United States and want it to be their own nation? They would have to create a whole new currency for themselves. That in itself would cost so much money.
Yeah, she literally said today that she wants to have Alberta sovereignty within the United Canada. So that's just saying like we
She's
only care about
delusional.
Alberta. We want Ontario or Ottawa to carry about Alberta, but we don't want to have to care about the rest of Canada.
She is so embarrassing. And the
When
way
is
she
there a
So
next
treated,
embarrassing.
election?
And I
the
told
way
her
she
at
treated
her
Trudeau was
office as
embarrassing.
such today. I did. I called her office right after lunch and I sat there for a good 10 or 15 minutes. I do it almost every week. I do, honestly,
Crazy.
about how she should resign and take LaGrange with you because you should never wander down the hallway by yourself without your buddy. And LaGrange is a great buddy, so she should take LaGrange with her because it would be helpful for all of us.
I have to say,
We're
watching
really-
those two during questioning, though, like during pressers, it's fucking hilarious.
They
Watching
look
them.
like kindergarten children who got
They
caught with their
literally-
hand in
yeah.
a cookie jar. 100%.
The funniest
Some
shit you'll
people-
see because it'll be like, "Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? Do you want to answer this one? Do you want to talk about this one? Oh,
Do you wanna
I'm
be the
lying
leader?
right now.
Let's be real.
You better answer this one."
Some people in the comments brought up other good points. The airports are federal. The mineral rights are federal.
But here's the thing. I think we're all assuming that a lot of these people who are talking about separation
Know
don't
what they're
understand-
talking about.
Yeah, they don't understand the legal implications of confederation, the treaties that were signed by the federal government, or I should say by the crown and with indigenous populations. Like they genuinely do not understand how any of this works, and I think this is why I had advocated education being a really important part. And yes, I do believe there's a certain portion of the population, because this comes with any fascist regime. There's going to be a certain portion of the population that no matter what we say, no matter what evidence we produce, no matter what we teach them, past, present, or future, they're never going to listen. Ever. It doesn't matter.
But does it really surprise you? Because the same people that are pushing for separation are also the same people who didn't understand their own party's platform.
Oh my God. I literally was copying and pasting from the Conservative Party policy book. So not their platform, the actual policy book. Because people did not believe that they had anti-trans policies or anti-abortion. I'm like, here it is. You know what? Immediately blocked. I was like, you guys, you can sit here and block me. I don't really give a rat's butt, because guess what? It doesn't affect me personally what you think of me. But this is the truth. It's not a fact. It's not a feel. It's a fact, not a feeling. This is their policy platform. And you're refusing to read it. And it's funny because the hairdresser that I went to see today, she voted for the Conservatives. She never even read it. She never read their policies. I'm like, you didn't read what you were voting for?
Yeah.
No Albertans do.
I have kind of like an idea. We all worked really well together. We accomplished a lot this election. But we have some work to do now and moving on to the future. And I'm already thinking about provincial elections, because a lot of our provincial elections are conservative. If we all work together and targeted Alberta specifically, all content creators attacking Alberta
And Ontario.
and dethrone into conservative governments in the next election, and starting now, me and Curious Leaf can start researching all the First Nations there, start informing them the power of their vote, and then along with everyone here, just bombard Alberta and Ontario with content creators, because this is what the IDU and the United States did. They targeted, but they have money, but they targeted each province and Canada as a whole. Basically, we have to be the bots of this new front line.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think what's happening is you see what's happening in the United States. The global push on fascism is going hardcore right now. Like they're putting all their cards on the table, all the chips on the line, and they're making the push. So if we think for the next 4 years they're going to back off, it's not happening. So we've got Australia next on the list. We got to support them. And yeah, it was so easy for the Conservative Party to latch on to people who weren't paying attention. People who just knew their life sucked, but they didn't know why. And so they weren't educated as to whether or not it was actually their provincial government that was causing the problems with their healthcare and their housing and all the other things. They just knew life sucked. I heard change is going to make it better. Therefore, I voted Conservative. And I have talked to so many people like that who just weren't paying attention. Like I'm hardcore paying attention, right? But the average Joe working a 12-hour shift comes home, checks their local news media, and then goes to bed. They don't, and then all they have to hear is we can make it better by change, and they latch on. And it was so easy for the hateful people to ride that wave. And so now they think they've got a bigger base, whereas I think this is the death rattle of fascism. I think this is the loudest they're ever going to be, and they want us. We need to stand up now and push back.
And on top of that, they tried to distract people with a culture war. So we're going to have to, like with my neighbor down the road, he is hardcore right wing. And just 5 minutes explaining to him the difference between culture war and how that's used to distract him and why they're using it, I changed his mind. So
yep, the
just
issue with the
focus
trans
on the
women in
top
sports, it was
5
like
most
1% of the
important things.
population, but they got people super mad.
I know.
Yeah.
Just I talk about the top 5 things that are important to the majority of Canadians because the rest will follow.
Yeah.
If we talk people into voting for a more liberal-sided government because it's important to their well-being and best interest when it comes to housing, education, healthcare, that party will also have other things tag along with it that we also agree with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of
personally,
people are afraid to hear any argument about trans rights and so on.
me
Yeah,
personally,
go ahead,
I'm
Colin.
I'm not wasting any time. I'm not waiting for the next provincial election. Right now, because a lot of people are misinformed about what is the federal responsibility and what's the provincial responsibility. A lot of the complaints in my local area was the healthcare. So I'm going to tackle healthcare and make Tim Houston, our premier, accountable for it. I've already researched video clips of him promising to fix healthcare. So I'm going to make videos and I'm just going to bombard him. I'm going to make videos listing his email, his phone number, and I'm just going to make his life a living hell. And I'm going to try to make every Nova Scotian aware of what he is doing. And he is promising to do, but he doesn't do.
Someone last night brought up on the live.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Christine, sorry. I know that Jan has been wanting to say something for a while, and I want to let her go.
Of
Yeah, it
course.
wasn't really anything big. I just didn't want to overtalk. But really, Calvin already covered it. I think that what we have to take from this is that we really we don't have much time to rest. And I don't want to say that, but we
don't.
Yeah. We just
That's why I
don't.
said our work starts again today. Like if people want to take a couple of days off, sure, whatever. But those of us that have been involved need to continue being involved. We need to continue being involved locally, provincially. And I really want us to be able to come together as a community and with our voices together also get the help of experts in the field to come talk to us, to help us, to give us ideas, etc.
And
So we got a lot of work to do.
Can I just say something that I'm really, really proud of? In 4 ridings that the AFN reported on that Indigenous people could flip a seat, they did.
Great.
Yeah!
Awesome.
awesome.
They flipped it from conservative to liberal.
That's
That's
wild.
awesome. There are so many wins in this. I know we didn't get the majority, but there's still been so many wins. That's a big one.
But
Yep.
in less than 4 months, guys, we went from what was a guaranteed sweep for PP
Yeah.
to almost a majority. And we have to keep, look at the good as well as look to the future and what we have to do.
Yeah.
And know the propaganda is already starting.
I do want to ask.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to say I got to drop because it's
Oh, okay.
time here. So I just wanted to say thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Sounds
Miss Felicity.
good.
Thank you.
Have a good dinner.
Bye-bye.
So I wanted to ask you guys like a panel question. Like I'm going to ask you a question and then I want to go through each person and get your answer if that's okay. Because we're getting close to ending the live. I was live for like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. No, I was live for like 16 hours yesterday. So I just want to take the evening to chill out, eat some food, watch some TV. And then I have a full day of work tomorrow. I got to get up at 6 a.m. So I need to rest a little bit after being up for 24 hours and sleeping for 3 hours. But the question I wanted to ask and for us to chat about for a bit before we end the live is, at the end of the day, when we look at the amount of votes, Liberals got about 8.5 million, Conservatives got about 8 million. How do you feel about 8 million Canadians voting for the same style of politics as MAGA Republicans? And how does that make you feel? What do you think that means for us? What are some of the repercussions that you think we might face, etc.? Go for it. We're going to go Christine, Tiffany, Jana, Curious, and then Christine again, and then Calvin.
Well, I think that the right, as majority, not everyone, really embodies politics as a part of their personality. So this is going to be a little bit of a disadvantage because they will be more devastated than we would be at a loss, and they're going to go even harder. So we have to remain calm. We have to keep working. And I know that Kamala Harris didn't get in, but if you look at the money the Republicans got from large organizations, and then you look at the money that Kamala raised by small donations, it can be done. So I don't know who should get that money or how we fundraise, but we also have to fundraise as well as dispel all the myths and lies.
Tiffany. And by the way, for the person that's asking in the bottom, why are you comparing us to the States? It's not just us, okay? It's a global problem. And if you're not paying attention, then you need to pay attention. The rise of far-right governments is happening globally. It is not just a Canadian problem. It's not just an American problem. It's an Australian problem. It's a UK problem. It's a France problem. It's an Italy problem. It's a Hungary problem. It's a Poland problem. It is everywhere. And it's because all these political parties are working under one organization called the IDU, and they're using a specific playbook. And Trump used it. Pierre used it. And I don't think that I need to, like, all you have to do is just go to Google or YouTube and search up some videos where people put Pierre and Trump together, and it's the exact same thing. And if you read through their policies, they might be worded differently, but the end goal is very, very similar. So that's why I'm comparing. And it's also because we share a culture. We share the same entertainment. We share the same type of upbringing. We share the same type of education. We are very similar to the United States, whether we like it or not. Okay. We're not some country across the globe that speaks a different language. Up until recently, we've had a lot of similarities, and we definitely share a lot of our culture, right? The same cartoons. We grew up on the same cartoons. We grew up on the same movies. We grew up on the same music. We're interconnected whether we like it or not.
I would also look up a list of points that Goebbels had for propaganda and compare that to the actions of the far right.
Yeah.
100%, I agree with that.
Learn your German history. There's some really good documentaries if you don't want to read a book about it. There's some good podcasts and good audiobooks, but get to know what happened in Germany. Tiffany.
100%. Do you mind repeating the question for me? Sorry, my ADHD kicked in, and
how do you feel? How do you
like
feel
he'll
about?
Forgive me all of.
So I said that 8.5 million people voted Liberal, 8 million people voted Conservative. How do you feel about that?
I feel happy in a very small portion of me because we're safe for the moment. I feel terrified given where I live in this country, and really sad that this country is being torn apart by hate and discrimination and things that are uncharacteristically what would be considered Canadian values. Because when I think of Canadian values, I think of compassion, love, caring, going out and doing things to help anybody. And deep down, I firmly believe that if anyone ever asked a Canadian for help, we would show up like without question. Wouldn't even be a thought. What do you need? And I feel like that type of voting system, like how the votes have been calculated and what I'm seeing, basically shows me that a lot of that is slowly disappearing from our society, and I'm scared and I don't understand why, and I don't know what to do about it. And I think I'm starting to feel helpless to change the ship, because the ship's going in a direction that I don't feel is right for us. You know what? America's America, and I have my own fears and sadness and feelings all about them, and I talk to them every morning about it, because they are so in an abusive relationship with their government. Because I'm sorry, there's no other way to color that picture. It's a DV relationship at the very best circumstances. And I don't want us to have that. I do. I understand people's genuine hurt about the election results yesterday, that they didn't get what they wanted. I genuinely feel people's hurt when they say, I don't feel heard, I'm disenfranchised. But they don't seem to understand when you explain to them why they feel that way and how it's created, because it's not the government, the level of government they're pointing at that is genuinely most of the problem. It's genuinely their provincial government. They are unwilling to listen. And I'm scared for Australia right now. Like, I've seen videos of TikTok creators who, like, they're so happy for Canada and they're so terrified. And I feel really helpless to help others do what we did for the moment. I'm secretly hoping that the NDP this time decides to create a coalition with the Liberals for the full 4 years. Hopefully 5 even. I'm okay if they push it to the 5-year max mark, honestly, given what we're facing. But I'm genuinely sad that so many people thought it was okay to vote for a party that has anti-trans policies, anti-abortion policies. They basically want to turn back clocks on rights. That a leader would threaten to use the notwithstanding clause. What is that? Like, you can't sit here arguing we are the party of the free and the da-da-da-da-da, and then say, well, we're going to overrule charter rights, but only for this group. Because you know what? If it's for that group, it will be for any group that they deem is not right for society. I'm sorry, that is just factual history. It's not a feeling. Like, I've been slowly trying to think of what I could do to try and help change things, and I appreciate every single one of you for wanting to help Alberta. Please, 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 we need it, because like 2027 will be here before we even realize it, and we've got like 2 years, and I would appreciate all the help on the planet. But I'm genuinely, as somebody who lives in Alberta, I'm genuinely fearful for what this is going to bring. And I feel like Curious is probably going to feel similar feelings to, in some ways, that I will. But I want all Canadians to feel heard and seen. And I don't know how to do that. And I think that's where I feel helpless. I don't know how to do that. And it breaks my heart. I don't want Albertans to feel like they don't matter, because the rest of the country doesn't feel that way. Like, anybody here, like, I know they're from the panel, there's a lot of people not from Alberta. Like, you guys don't feel like Alberta doesn't matter. Like, we do. And if we were really willing to not be aggravating and abusive, and I could go on with the adjectives, we'd be heard. So I guess I'm hoping that people in this comments and on this panel can help me come up with ideas to hopefully change the tides here somehow by some miracle. But I'm glad Carney won, even if it was a minority. It's a very strong minority mandate. Yay him. And I loved his dance. It was very cute. So cute. His Elwood Webster dance is so adorable.
Thank you, Tiffany. Jana, your turn.
I think I'm from Alberta, or I'm not from, I live in Alberta now. I'm from Ontario. And I think we need to, like, maybe I'll just transition right to the point. Almost half of the country voted for PV. And that is problematic. Like, for the divide is there. We're split down the middle. And we need to find a way to get back. And I think that, unfortunately, we're the ones that have to do the work. And when I say we, I mean people on the left, because the ones on the right don't get it. Right? And it's going to be hard. And I don't want to bunch everybody that voted conservative in one pile either, because there are sections. And I'm the most worried about the section that truly believed in the message that PP put out there. The ones that, read his platform and listened to his speeches and listened to his promises. And now they're devastated. And my heart breaks for them. Like, I didn't even think about how I would feel until I read some and saw some reactions. And I'm like, wow, like, we're not trying to hurt you. We are not trying to hurt anybody. We voted because we don't want to hurt anybody. Because we wanted to keep Canada, the country that we are right now, in leading in, universal health care. Is it perfect? No. But it is certainly a whole lot better than the private system in the States, in my opinion. And just DEI that has been demonized and misrepresented on so many levels. People who are not qualified are not getting jobs because of DEI. That's not how it works. It's about equity. But again, we get back to the people not understanding the difference between equality and equity. And, there's a great analogy of two people standing looking over a fence. You may have seen this drawing. And if you're looking at equality, they're both standing, but one is a child and one is an adult, and only the adult can see over the fence. That's equality. They're both standing in front of the fence, but only one of them can see over that fence. Equity is getting a bench so the kid can be the same height as the adult, and they can both look over the fence. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's leveling the playing field. It's giving kids school lunches, for example, so that hunger isn't a point of inequity in the classroom. It's that simple. Oh, I didn't invent the analogy. I don't want to take credit for it. It's literally a visual you can find on the internet. But thought it would be a good one. Like, that's the difference. And we need to get to a place where people understand that. And understand that that's what we're fighting for here in a lot of ways. And that's what some of what PP was taking away from people. We're not trying to take anything from you. Anyway, I think that's, yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
But it's, again, one just last thought, it does break my heart that they're hurting. And the ones like PPM stuff, I have no sympathy for them because they know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And people that voted knowing that this was the way it was going in our like pro project 2025, I don't have sympathy for them. But I do for the people who truly believed in what they were being sold. Yeah. And there are
It's the same way. It's the same way you feel bad for somebody who got scammed, like who got financially scammed, right? It's the same type of feeling of like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you. You genuinely didn't know any better. It's just wild that it's happening on such a massive scale and that the scam is coming from our own politicians.
Well, it's hard because the hate is going to be directed at us.
Yep, it already is.
Mm-hmm. The anger and the hate.
The hate's been directed at us for years now.
No different.
Yeah.
I try to remember just to be trauma informed and knowing that they are experiencing trauma now because of all this. And they're going to lash out. And that doesn't make
COVID was their first trauma, right? Because they believed that it wasn't real and that the government was trying to control them. And then the pandemic wasn't really a big deal. And it was, like, that's when it really took off. So we're still dealing with the effects of that. And I don't know. We're going to have to figure it out. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm going to go in front of Curious Leaf here for a second. But the only way that they're going to magically start treating us better is if somehow life gets better for them. But under the system of capitalism that we're under, things are going to get more expensive. Like they always have. They have been since I was a little girl. That's never going to change until the system changes. And I don't think it's going to change in my lifetime. I'd like it to, but it's probably not.
And there's a factor.
I don't know how we change it, because even when we say like, well, if the Liberals do everything right, I mean, they would have to make such drastic changes that it's not even within, I guess, the possibility in the next 5 years. Because at the end of the day, if you just try to change a system overnight, that is going to cause more problems as well. And we are dealing with a global market. We have to be able to stay competitive with other countries. And, it's very complex. It's very nuanced, and it cannot happen overnight. But I feel like the only way that these people are going to change is if it does happen overnight, which is not a possibility. But they think that politicians have this power, and they don't. And they always just say, well, things were better before. Things were cheaper under Harper. But things were even cheaper before Harper. They were cheaper under Chrétien, and then they were cheaper under Mulroney, and then they were, you just go back in time, the cheaper they get. So, like, they need to understand that the people they need to be mad at are the corporations, are the billionaires, are the top 1% that control everything. But until they figure that out, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But that is one of the biggest issues, is that everyone says, like, well, if Liberals do a good enough job, then those people will come around. I don't think they will. I don't think they could do the best job they can in their power in our current situation right now, and they would still be unhappy and upset. Because there's no way that all of a sudden Mark Carney can magically bring house prices down from 1 million to 250,000. That's not going to happen.
Not with Trump.
And conservatives couldn't do that either. That's the thing. Nothing would have gotten better under conservatives in terms of all of a sudden people being able to have cheaper prices on everything. If anything, it would have gotten worse. But until they understand who sets prices and how the market works, we're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere.
Exactly.
Anyway, Curious Leaf, I'm sorry that I took that spot. Go for it.
First, I want to address Roger in the comments. Roger Mills, you're asking a lot of questions and you're talking a lot that the Liberal government is trying to go after our oil field, trying to go after our oil field workers. The lie, just like if I was told as a kid, if I sat too close to a TV, I was going to go blind. It is the same lie that our conservative government in Alberta has been telling you, if you're an oil field worker, that the federal government is controlling the boom and the bust of oil. Okay, so you've been doing it for 20 years. What controls the boom and bust of oil? Does the federal government cause that? No, markets do. And that depends on your jobs. That's where the jobs are. The corporations own the oil companies. They're the ones taking control of your jobs. They're laying you off or they're hiring you. That is how that works. It doesn't have to do with anything with the government. It is all markets. If the federal government starts building more pipelines, that costs money. They need foreign investment to build that. It is very, very, very expensive. There also needs to be a demand for it. Yes, they do need provinces all to agree to do it, but it is a very expensive endeavor. You just have to research to know these things, but the UCP government, the PC government has been lying to you and telling that it is the feds and Ottawa's problem, saying that they are causing all of our troubles in Alberta. It is not the truth. They want to make Ottawa the problem so they don't have to take accountability in this province when they do bad. Okay, so now let me get on to the topic of what I think about the numbers of people who voted for Liberals and who voted for Conservatives. As an Albertan, that worries me because I live in this province that has been conservative my entire life, and so it makes me fearful when I see the rest of Canada go that direction, because I know living in this province how bad it is, so it scares the shit out of me when it happens across Canada, because that means that so many people across Canada have the same mindset as the Conservatives of Alberta. They didn't do their due diligence to see who they are voting for, and I don't want to say I feel bad for these people. I feel bad that they aren't getting what they want. There's something they want that the government isn't addressing for them. But like was said earlier, it is your provincial government that is probably causing a lot of those issues. So I think that's what scares me, just like it scared the crap out of me when Donald Trump got voted in. It scared the crap out of me when Donald Trump got voted in, because that is a threat and he has actively been threatening us. So when I see a large portion of Canada voting in a conservative government, it scares me because I see what our own conservative government does. And it's a matter of fact that Alberta's conservative government is a lot more far right than the rest of the conservative provinces across Canada. Like, I get Saskatchewan has Scott Moe, but I think Danielle Smith is a little bit more.
She's the worst. Scott Moe is a very close second, though.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
She's terrible
so
at
yeah,
her job, and she's a terrible person.
Yeah, so I think it just scares me. And then I think from your guys' perspective, I can understand why you guys are frustrated and you guys are scared about it, but I think it's extra scary for us in Alberta who are a little bit more progressive, because when we see the rest of Canada going down that avenue, we're like, well, shit, like what's happening? Because like we've had maybe I've held the rest of Canada to a higher bar than Alberta. So it scares me, but at the same time, I do feel bad for these people and that they made that decision to vote that way because they were convinced that change is what we needed instead of like when you have a restaurant that's going to shit and then it comes under new ownership and then it gets better. Like they didn't look at it in that sense of, okay, there's someone new heading that party. Let me look into him. Like, let me do the due diligence and look into him. I did the same thing. I looked into Pierre Polyev. Like, I looked to see what each had to offer. I wanted to know what I felt comfortable with because what if I voted for the Liberals and they were just like batshit? You know what I mean? Like, I usually vote NDP. So I don't know, like it does frustrates me. Like I think a lot of people, it was just voter empathy or apathy. I think, yeah, I think they just get frustrated with social media. They get frustrated with and distrustful of what they find on the internet as not being valid news. And then I think there is the young men population that have unfortunately gone down that pipeline. Like I can't even, like I would, like we'll never know. I just want to know like who it is voting and supporting these things, and like your same frustration frontline of like how do we address this, because I don't want people to stop voting conservative necessarily. I just want them to be more informed when making their decisions, right? And like I do think they need new leadership. I think the Conservative Party needs new leadership to take them away from going further right. I don't know, like I don't know if that ever will happen because of the IDU, but I think they need better leadership for that party if they're going to go anywhere in the future. But yeah, that's my take on it.
We have to just create our own IDU, like our own version of it. That goes again. We'll have our own. Yeah, we'll start working on that. We'll get our own global organization for human rights going. Thank you for sharing, Christine.
Hey. So I know everybody's a little bit in despair because of the amount of people that voted conservative, but I would like to be the ray of hope in this whole message here. You know, I talk to people at my workplace. I don't talk about politics at work, right? It's not a thing that you discuss at work. It's just not appropriate. But I happened to be looking at my local news and Mark Carney was coming to my city. And I was like, oh my God, Mark Carney's here today. I had no idea he was here. And the girl beside me said, who's Mark Carney? Right? So let's have some hope. So the whole country, with what's been going on the last lost liberal decade, let's say, it just happens to be the last 9 years. We got hammered with a pandemic. There was all kinds of things happening. There's a lot of unhappy people in Canada, and it doesn't matter which side of the coin you were on. There's lots of unhappy people. And you've got to look at the different levels of voters that there are, right? You've got your basic voter who knows absolutely nothing about politics. They literally looked at the campaigns the night before and made a split decision to vote because their sister told them they had to. And then you've got the second level of people that are like, let me check Facebook. And then they get hammered with the propaganda of the MAGA and Mark Carney was on Epstein's Island and, blah, and all it takes is one or two of those and that's all they see again. But that's enough for them to be like, oh, the WEF and the conspiracy. Okay. So you've got those level of people. But then you've got the level of people who I actually had arguments with yesterday saying that Trump is actually doing good for the United States and that we should be more like them. So I think this election and the job for people like us over the next 4 years is to separate those kind of people out from each other. So I think in the first little bit, there's going to be a few people that will be like, oh, maybe Carney wasn't involved in the WEF and maybe he's not selling us out to China and maybe some of the stuff we heard really wasn't true. And so I think we'll get a couple people kind of relax from that. And then you're going to get the next level of people that are like, oh, look at the cool policies he's trying to get going. Oh, look at the stuff he actually does care about. So I think we'll gain a couple more there. So what I think our job is to do is to be sympathetic, obviously, to those conservative voters who, like you said, we feel like they got scammed, and a lot of them did. We obviously want to be sympathetic to those people. We want to make sure that they feel like they're being heard in this country, because if they're upset about something, they're upset about something. That's legit. But we need to focus in and narrow in on that group of people that are so far right and make sure those people know that that behavior is unacceptable in our country. It is no longer acceptable to sit in a room full of people that make a joke about an Indigenous person and laugh at it. It is not acceptable to not call that person out. We need to stop being quiet in the corner, letting people make jokes about women being the dishwasher in the kitchen. Those people need to start being held accountable for those types of sentences. And I'm not saying we have to shame them publicly and, call their job. And, some of them deserve that. Obviously they do if they're doing like nasty racist things. But even just the lighthearted, racism, the lighthearted jokes that people used to make, that it was let's not say anything, let's not make waves. No, we need to make waves, because those kind of people need to understand that that's not what Canada wants, and hopefully the rest of the people will pick up on that. So I don't think the battle is 8 million people. I think it's much less than that, but I think we definitely need to zero in on this type of behavior and encourage others to stand out against it.
Wow.
I agree. Bullies don't respond to compassion.
That's right.
I've thought about this question in great detail. I've studied the United States in great detail. We can't depend on the Liberal government and Mark Carney to bring these people back. They've got a job to do, and that's running their country. It's our job, something that we began months and months ago, to continue this. It's up in a democracy. It's the people have the power, and we have direct control on where this country goes. If we choose to do nothing, then it's going to go back the same way as it was this election. So, with that being said, when Joe Biden won and Donald Trump was elected out, the Democrats stopped fighting. They were complicit. And all the other Democrats just went on back to their ordinary lives. Well, the Republicans were planning in the corners and organizing. They didn't bother targeting Republican states. That's something we have to do. We have to target conservative provinces. We need to attack the conservative machine. We have to attack agencies like the Rebel News. We need the law to come down on full force on the foreign interference, and don't slow it down like the United States did. They slowed it down, and Donald Trump bought time and bought enough time, so he came back. So that can't happen, and I hope to God that's up to the judiciary system. But we need people like Pat to Nowhere to go to universities to start reshaping young minds and debate conservative hoo-has like Jordan Peterson. We need somebody masculine to bring back traditional masculinity and healthy masculinity and put people like Jordan Peterson back in their spot.
And Charlie Kirk.
We're very lucky that we are in this situation, because most of the country is in a narcissistic abuse. A lot of them aren't themselves anymore. They're totally indoctrinated. And fortunately, they have a shock to their system now. And we have to take advantage of that shock to their system and slowly drag them back to the good side. And that's the only way we can do it. We can't, like we said earlier, we can't stop. We have luck on our side. A lot of people are shocked. Let them process it, but slowly, let's start bringing them back and target conservative provinces and target the whole conservative machine. And we have to organize. We have to meet maybe somewhere in Toronto, like all band together, chip in, get a conference center, and then we have to develop our own we have to develop our own national strategic plan on paper. And after that national strategic plan, right under that, we have smaller individualized province plans. So that way we have a Bible, we have a dictionary, we have our own version of Project 2025, but it's for the good of the country.
I'm in.
I'm totally in.
Sign me up.
Can I suggest maybe the mountains? If we're gonna spend that much money, we might as well be somewhere really pretty we can hike. Just
Our
saying.
own G7 summit.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. Like Banff and Jasper is
I
pretty
don't
awesome.
know. Ontario, Northern Ontario, where I'm from, in the fall is some of the most beautiful foliage you'll ever see in your entire life.
Kyle
I couldn't argue.
I'm actually in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is right in the middle of the Great Lakes.
Okay.
At the end of the day, this whole country is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Doesn't even matter where we go, we're going to find beautiful spots.
I won't lie, that's entirely true.
Yep.
Very
Yeah.
true.
I know there's some parts that are a little flat, but there's beauty in that too, looking out across the horizons.
I have been in Nova Scotia as well, and it's stunning out there.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, right? But BC has less bugs. Yeah, we do actually. We do have less bugs. Well, I want to thank all of you guys for contributing to this conversation. I think it was an important conversation for us to have after last night and this morning. And we got a lot of work to do. So here we go again.
Are we doing some meetups on the Discord to talk further? I want to get more involved now that tax season's over, so just throwing it out there.
Oh yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm gonna create some like actual, TikTok creator meetups, some Zoom calls. I want to find some different organizations that I can partner with. There's a lot of things that I have in the works. So now that the election is over and I'm not trying to survive mentally anymore, at least for the next little while.
I need to be added to that Discord. I'm not on you guys's. I don't think I am.
Oh, the Beaver Network Discord.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know if I am either, to be honest.
You can just go to our link tree in our profile and you should be able to find it there.
Okay.
Yeah. So for anybody that wants to join.
Can I just ask you guys a question? So I'm literally like brand new to this, right? Like I've never TikTok a video in my entire life until 3 months ago. So I have no idea how to use this app. I have no idea. I don't have a YouTube account. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have all of the things. I was just like really upset about what was going on and started posting shit. So that's where I'm at. So I don't want to impose myself on anyone's plans or business, but I am more than welcome to use the little bit of platform that I have to help in any way. So if I can help in any way, let me know.
Absolutely.
For
I think
sure.
if you guys aren't comfortable making your own TikToks, if you're sharing other creators' videos, that helps boost the message as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I follow all you guys now. I follow Miss Lotus Lady. I follow Shane LaSalle. I follow like all of the awesome ones. Redhead Jade, I saw she popped in here a minute ago. I follow all of you guys and I share like every single video you guys put out because I don't have the skills to do like the green screen and the cool screenshots and all the stuff. It's like me.
We can train you. It's okay.
Yeah. If
We
you
can
do,
have a little
absolutely.
we
I'll
can
be
have a
all
little
over it.
training session. We can do that.
For sure. I'm
Does anybody want a
Great
funny
idea.
story before we're done for the day? Does anybody want a really, really funny story? Well,
Okay.
I will embarrass myself for the funny story.
We will end this live with your funny story and then I'm going to say goodnight because we're already 25 minutes over.
True. Remember how I told you, like me and you had DM'd each other and Danielle Smith had done her whole, I don't remember which controversy, but a controversy, and I said I was going to start making videos. I went to see my eyebrow waxing person, I feel like you anticipate where this story is gonna go. Let's just put it this way. The person I had doing my eyebrows, she's getting a little older. My eyebrows didn't really survive. As I said, I'm more than willing to completely embarrass myself for this story because we need a laugh. My eyebrows didn't really survive as well. And like, let's put it this way: I had 1920s style eyebrows. 1920, yes, it was. And you know what? For some people, if that is your look, I love that for you. It doesn't work for my face shape. We'll put it that way. I literally I drove all over Edmonton. This is hilarious. I drove all over Edmonton. And, no, I'm on the phone. I drove all over Edmonton to find that, you know that eyebrow regrowth stuff that you can get that's prescription? Because I'm like, I need to grow my eyebrows back as fast as humanly possible. $200 and some odd later. So I finally, long story short, I finally have eyebrows again. So guess who's going to start posting videos? I didn't want to do it right before the election because I'm like, it feels like I'm bandwagon jumping.
You could have just put on a filter and become a gingerbread cookie and just make videos as a gingerbread cookie.
I should have, but like literally, I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, why does the universe punish me like this? Like, why? I want to just like, and I'm not normally a vain person, but I'm like, when you have no eyebrows, there's no way to fix that. If your hair is terrible, you can put it in a ponytail, it'll be fine. But I'm like, there is no way to fix not having eyebrows.
You should have drew them on like a Wii character.
It's not fixable. It is what it is. If they're gone, that's it, man. They're gone until they come back. If they come back.
That was a funny story. Thank you for sharing it. Now I'm just picturing you without eyebrows.
Loving it. So if you ever need a moment, just think about the fact I was going to do a TikTok and then my eyebrow waxing person just took my eyebrows mostly away.
You should have done one.
I could have. It was awful. I was embarrassed to go in public. It was that bad. And people are like, put a hat on. I'm like, but my hat doesn't. Hats don't cover your eyebrows. They only cover a certain. Because it's true. If you look at a ball cap, it'll only cover to where your eyebrows.
Extra large sunglasses.
I was just gonna say that. Extra large sunglasses.
I can pretend I'm a celebrity. Every store I go to, I could be like a celebrity.
Channel your inner Kim Kardashian.
Okay.
Just kidding. Don't do that.
No, I don't think I have one of those. I think I rejected from my body. I don't think I have one of those.
Well, guys, this was a good live. Thank you for being here. I am going to jump off and order. You know what? I told myself that after the election, I was going to start eating like super, super healthy and go back to my like salads and tons of raw fruits. But you know what? After being up for 24 hours and sleeping for 3 hours, I'm ordering a pizza and I'm going to start fresh again tomorrow. I think I deserve a pizza because yesterday when I went out and got dinner, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be really good because it's election day and I'm just going to be good. And I ate a salad and it just didn't fulfill what I needed fulfilled after the election. So today I'm just going to get a pizza and then tomorrow I'll go on my diet.
I hope your apartment's smelling better.
Enjoy that pizza.
Yeah, it's not smelling like burnt plastic anymore, so that's good.
Good night.
Enjoy your pizza and maybe some wings if you're into that kind of thing, or veggie.
I'm gonna get a butter paneer pizza.
Okay, I'm jealous.
You should be. It is delicious.
I had a vegan crispy chicken burger with blue cheese and ranch and a kale salad, so I'm not completely devastated, but a little jealous.
Well, I haven't eaten anything yet today, so
Sorry for
I need to get some food before I like energetically crash out in front of everybody.
Go enjoy your pizza, and
yes,
we will see you another day really soon.
Yep. Tonight is going to be about pizza and Handmaid's Tale until I pass out.
Nice.
Oh my god, it sounds like the most amazing night ever.
Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for bringing me up.
Always.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
I'll see you guys soon.
Absolutely.
Good
Love you
night.
guys.